Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is Bust Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show several times.
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 5, Episode 4, The End, written by Ben Edlund, directed by Steve Boyum.
Ben Edlund's tirade against women in general continues
on. Yeah. When will it ever end? A question of all time that we will find out.
We'll find out. How long does Bedlund stay on? Like,
I think until
he doesn't have a season 15 episode or anything.
Oh, definitely not. He's until season 8, I think, because I'm pretty sure he wrote the last episode of season 8.
It says that he wrote 821, but
so not 22.
Sacrifice.
I thought he thought Sacrifice, but I suppose Sacrifice is a Jeremy Carver because it's his Carver season.
Yeah.
Thoughts, prayers, etc.
Okay, I thought that the trajectory of, like, this is a whole thing trying to convince Dean to say yes to Michael, and the lesson that he takes away is that he should talk to Sam again is, like, nice. I hope that End-verse Castiel gets beaten to death with, like, a bunch of raw fish. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
I do think this is a very interesting episode for the reasons that you mentioned last episode that you said you would not like it for, which is that I don't care what the characterization is because, like, it's Zachariah's conceptualization of the future instead of what actually happens. Like, this is Zachariah trying to convince Dean of something. But looking at it from that lens, I actually do find very interesting. Like, for example, the casting. I don't think Cass would end up this way. But it's interesting that Zachariah thinks not that Cass would end up this way, but that showing this to Dean will change his mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's because Dean, like, he knows what Dean's views towards addiction are via Sam and Demon Blood. So it's like, well, Sam has to be Lucifer. Who's, like, the next closest guy that we can do this to?
No, but, like, it is fascinating, too, because Cass didn't need to be there, I think. Like, it's fascinating that Zachariah, would put Cass there.
Dean's guilt about being the cause of
making Cass fall
powers,
or whatever. Yeah.
Going away.
It does matter to Dean that Cass is there, like to 2009 Dean, because he looks for him. And
Cass
I mean,
is like
he looks for him for
he's
powers.
Ruined the most recently.
Yeah, but I guess because they've been like very buddy with each other, I never really stopped to think about it that much. That, like, perhaps Dean is guilty about this. And also because Dean is just in a generally hapless, hopeless situation right now. That I did not think it matters that much to him that he ruined Cass's life, because for all he knows, he's ruined everybody's life. But this episode, I feel like, cements that Dean really does, like, give a shit about this. Because, you know, we go back and forth. I mean, in 501, he's like, oh, you killed my friend, Cass. And then 503, he's like, okay, you're gonna die? Good. Let's go out. So here, I feel like this is the part where I'm like, oh, okay. No, he does care. It's just he is also in a very hopeless situation that it may be difficult for him to act on it or for us to see it. But he does care that this happened to Cass.
But, I mean, what is that? How is that? Like, what does it mean for him to care that? Because, like, it's just guilt because of his direct involvement. Like, that doesn't necessarily say anything about how he feels about Cass.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is, I didn't even buy that he was guilty for a while. I was like, it was just what happens. And I mean, he felt sad, but feeling sad is different from feeling guilty, I believe. I don't know, like, I think it's a good insight on Dean's character to realize that there is this feeling of personal responsibility for Cass, because that is something we've been saying last episode also, that like he doesn't feel responsible for Cass in that way. And that's what makes it, quote, work. But it's like, well, he does feel it a little bit. And I suppose that's just what happens.
He's responsible when, like, Cass does something that Dean pressures him into doing, and then it causes consequences. But, yeah, he doesn't feel responsible in terms of, like, you can run off and get killed by Raphael. Yeah. Like, that's not my business. It's just when you do something I want you to do and then it turns out badly, then I feel guilty. That doesn't really feel like responsibility for Cass.
That's true. He's not here being like, you shouldn't do that, Cass. He's just like, oh, okay. I don't know. I understand now why people are fascinated by this episode. I'm still not buying it. Like, after this,
I don't think I will. Fascinated by this episode at all.
Yeah, but you hate Supernatural now, so you don't care about anything. But like me, like this episode has always been just like I understand people like it. I don't really see the appeal that much. And I suppose I still don't see the appeal as much as other people would. But I get it now. Like, if I was someone who would be the target audience for this kind of episode, I'd be really into it.
Yeah, if I was more a consumer of, like, post-apocalyptic media, I would understand wanting to see characters in that situation. But I think that's where my understanding starts and ends.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it, I think. Or maybe we won't. I'm not sure.
I did like this episode. I know I was sounding very negative. I think I had a
what did you like about
fun time
with this episode. The path of like Dean's conclusion. You like that?
Yeah, I thought that was nice.
I do think. Yeah. I mean, this is not a Sam episode, obviously, but I think it's a Sam and Dean episode primarily, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which was surprising to me because I thought it was just going to be a Dean episode. So that's fun.
And the Tumblerinas are under the impression that it's a Destiel episode.
I think it is also a Destiel episode, obviously. But I just don't. Like in the comparison of Dean and Sam and Dean, it leans more on the Sam and Dean side. Mm-hmm. And I think it is a Destiel episode. I think there is something here. Well, first of all, what do we define as Destiel episode? I haven't had this conversation before. Didn't we already have
this conversation? It's an episode where the relationship is the central point.
Oh, okay. It's not the central point, but I think it adds to the flavor of the relationship. Like, they're cute. They're cute, you know?
Like in the two conversations that they have in the present day.
Yeah,
like Cass is cute. Cass is cute. I agree that Cass, who uses they them pronouns sometimes, is cute.
No, but they are cute. I mean, they're like, it is fascinating to me because in that scene, I was like, I don't really care about this episode that much. Let's press play. And then Cass is in that that like fucking side of the road, covering his ear, going, sorry, Dean, I can't hear you. And I was giggling, twirling my hair. And I was like, well, maybe I do gaff. You have mentioned what you knew, right? Or have you not? Well, no. Mention it. Yeah.
Okay, what did I know about this episode? I knew that Cass was gonna say, this isn't funny, Dean. The voice says I'm almost out of minutes. And that there would be the I'll just wait here then.
That's so what he does.
Yeah, and then that the main plot is that Zachariah shows Dean a potential future where he says no to Michael, but Sam says yes to Lucifer, and Dean's the leader of some camp in Croatoan, has taken over everyone, and Cass lost his grace and is addicted to prescription pills, and has orgies and lies about being some kind of shaman to get women to fuck him, and he agrees to die. Okay, what I thought was that he agrees to die for Dean, no question, but in fact this was kept from him, so he did not really...
No, I think he does. I think he does know.
I think that he knows, but I don't know how much that Dean thinks he knows.
He looks there. Like, he looks with the thing, And after you see his face and it's like, well, he knows he's going to die. I think, to me. And also he does point out immediately that like, bad idea, it's reckless. And I mean, that line combination of, if you don't want me to risk reckless, maybe insouciant could work. And then Dean goes, are you coming or not? And then he goes, of course. And it's like, well, okay. Slay.
I don't know. People just say that in like action movies, though.
Yeah,
like,
but they're not
it
gay
doesn't
like Dean and
mean
Cass.
anything. I don't know. I don't know what genre Cass thinks he's in, so I can't really. That fake Cass thinks he is in, so I can't really speak for him.
Again, I don't really think of this as like Cass and Dean, like future Cass and Dean.
Like, we see Cass when he loses his
me.
powers in season 9,
Yeah,
and he's not like this.
It interests me, not in them, but in how present-day Dean is seeing it. Like, he's seeing Cass just be like, okay, let's go on a suicide mission, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, Cass did go on a suicide mission last episode, but I feel like there's a difference. But yeah, whatever. Let's get into it.
And that Enver's Cass says that Enver's Cass says that he likes younger Dean better in some kind of a scene. And that when we see Lucifer and Sam, he's like slaying in a white suit and there's like a red rose involved and he kills Dean by stepping on his head and snapping his neck. And then when Dean comes back, he tells Cass to never change. Those are the things I knew.
Did you know even that Sam was gonna call and say...
I did not.
Interesting. Yeah, I also did not. I'm so sorry, everyone.
And someone who has watched Supernatural many times.
No, because the thing is, like, in season 1 to 3, I was saying, like, these are not the seasons I cared about, so I recall nothing about them. And I mean, it was kind of true.
Seasons you care
and then we
about.
go to season 4, and it's like, I only recall the scenes with Cass in them, and maybe the scenes with Dean in them. So what does that say about me?
What does that say?
What does that say? Does it mean I don't care about Sam? Well, obviously I do, or do I? Which is the question in everyone's head.
Yeah. There's 10 Discords dedicated to this debate, and they're furiously typing right now.
Exactly. Well, let's get into the episode. We have a flashback sequence that's to Croatoan, right? Whoa, the cult too. We're bringing up the cult back.
I think the only part that was funny to me was that they continue to do the maybe it's best we just go our separate ways voiceover over scenes that aren't Sam leaving. This time they put that voiceover.
It's like they didn't even hear you complain about it last episode.
I know. Like, hello? We're like the premier live reviewers of Supernatural, and like they change the show every time after our episodes come out because like they want to make us happy. But yeah, no, this time it's over Sam standing in the road at the end of 501.
Has it been 15 years since this episode?
Yeah.
It has been. Well, it's been 14 and something because this came out in October.
Yeah, it was October and we're in March right now. But yeah.
We're the live 14-year later reviewer of Supernatural.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Is it just the visual of Sam getting into a pickup truck with a random guy too confusing because people are going to think that the random guy is relevant? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they think Sam's going to get stranger dangered or whatever.
Oh, I was going with the roadhead option, but that's too.
No. We start with Dean getting out of his car to go into a motel. And this is like he's in a city, which is fascinating to me. I feel like when we think of motels in Supernatural, it's always like side of the road, there's nothing on both sides. So seeing it in a city is pretty fun for me. Yeah, there's a guy outside who is a Bible thumping guy. Literally thumping a Bible, I think. And he is holding this flyer that's like, have you thought about God's plan for you? And he asks Dean about it. And Dean goes, too freaking much, pal. And the guy just looks at him like, huh. So Dean enters the motel. There is a nice follow through to this because in 1516, I think is what it's called. Whichever episode it was that Cass beats Dean up. Dean calls the fucking angels via guy who was like Bible thumping also. And I thought that was fun. Like that thread was fun. Even the first time I watched it. Is there commentary to be had here? That they're entering the fringier sides of Christianity, as Zachariah said earlier. I don't
know.
feel
What's the commentary.
No idea. I feel like it's not my place.
As an atheist, it's very much not my place. I have no clue
I feel
what
like it's more
Zachariah
your place.
even meant by fringe Christian, like Jehovah's Witnesses. Is that what? I think Dean calls the guy a Jehovah's Witness later. All I know about Jehovah's Witness is that Troy Barnes on Community is supposedly a Jehovah's Witness, so I can't help you out.
Well, I feel like insulting the quote fringier parts of Christianity is better for an atheist to do than a Catholic to do. It's my humble opinion.
Okay, because I have no power in the Christian world over French Christianity.
The thing, like, I have no power over the American Christian world.
Yeah.
Obviously. But there are, like, sects here in the Philippines of Christianity that I feel like it's not my place. So, whatever. Let's proceed. We have a very cute scene, I think, to be... Crystal thinks it's cute for Cass reasons only.
It is.
But yeah, Dean and Cass are calling. Yeah, Dean brings up that they're talking about the cult. So they're looking for the cult again. Didn't they bring it up in 501? Like Sam brought it up.
Sam said that we should find the
and Dean was like,
I don't give a fuck.
And now he's like, okay, slay.
Yeah, I mean, Cass wants to find the cult, I guess. Right, Cass also brings it up in 502, right? Because he's like, I'm talking about, like, your plan to kill Lucifer or whatever. Well, no, we have to find God to do it. But I guess Cass is now like, fine, okay, let's get the gun.
Yeah, but Cass can't hear Dean because he is standing on the side of a road and there's a big truck passing by. And it's making his audio quality quite bad. And he just goes, I didn't get that. And Dean is still giggling, twirling his hair. And he goes, it's kind of funny talking to a messenger of God on a cell phone. It's, like watching a Hell's Angel ride a moped, just like in the Bless the Telephone AMV. What a wonderful video that is. This isn't funny, Dean. The voice is almost out of minutes. And yeah, so Dean is insisting that the demons wouldn't keep it because it could kill them and they probably melted it already. But I mean, it could kill the devil. So Cass says, let's do it. This is how we do it.
He calls killing the devil an insane task.
He's trying to look for God.
Was this his attitude last time? Is it just because the God thing is getting him down?
I mean, I don't think they ever really talked about killing the devil, more of just finding God. And for maybe to Cass, it's like, you can't find God, but you can't kill the devil.
Wait, but like Cass wants to find God to defeat Lucifer.
But there's a difference between God defeating Lucifer.
Okay, so it's just like,
Winchester.
Dean, you personally are incapable of killing the devil. But as a goal, it's fine.
Yeah, maybe if he was talking to Sam, it would be a different conversation.
Very true.
Dean goes, okay, so where do we start? And Cass goes, where are you now? And Dean says Kansas City, and then he leans over the bed, like across the bed, and gets the key on the desk. And it says Century Hotel Room 113. And what a visual. Am I delusional for thinking this? That this is...
I have no idea what you're pointing out as a visual.
No, like, he's on a call and he's telling Cass what motel room he's in, and he's leaning over, like, the bed like that. And I was like, well, that looks pretty good. Did this not think this looks gay radar, which we know they have?
Yeah, no, I tried to find a source for it, and Misha Collins said it at a con, and it wasn't the producers, it was Kim Manners, the late Kim Manners, that he was accusing of homophobia at a con.
But Kim Manners is dead now. Funny. At this point, right?
Yeah. And he looked old enough in the con that, like, I think Kim Manners was dead by the point that he was saying at the con that Kim Manners told me it was too gay. So.
Okay, well, they don't have, I retract my statement. They don't have the, does it look gay radar
They
now.
no longer have a 2K radar. Sorry, Kim Manners.
Is this too impolite? I'm so sorry, Kim Manners and Kim Manners' kin.
Yeah, I mean, but okay, there was still, like, execs that said that Cassie couldn't be on top during Route 666, and I'm sure that those people have a 2K radar.
Exactly. This is beyond their 2K radar. It's 2K times 2. Cass goes, I'll be there immediately. And Dean says, no, because I need to eat. I need to sleep. Well, first he says, there's stuff I gotta do. And Cass goes, squints his eyes and goes, what stuff? But yeah, he needs to sleep. So he says, come back tomorrow morning in 4 hours or something. And Dean closes his phone. But Cass is still talking. He just goes, yeah, I'll just... And as Dean hangs up, he puts down his phone and goes, wait here, Dan. And then he stands there on the side of the road.
Doesn't he have the game with the snake that, like, gets longer on his phone? Like, maybe he knew about the game with the snake.
He's being dramatic right now. He's being dramatic right now. In 10 minutes, his phone will be out and he'll be playing the game with the snakes.
Thank God. All right.
Thank God.
You were saying something about how this is a famous SCL scene because of the song.
I mean, not just because of the song. It was famous prior to that already, obviously, because they wouldn't make a song about it if it wasn't. But this is just in general. I think this entire conversation and both scenes, as you said, of where Cass and Dean are in present times this episode are just famous by their own right.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I think it's fun.
Cass said some charming things, so I understand why this would linger. So, we're later in the hotel room, and Dean gets a phone call, and he answers it by saying, damn it, Cass, I need to sleep. But it's Sam. What does Sam think about this? Probably nothing, or perhaps everything. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam is preoccupied with his own shit.
In a headline later, Sam goes, Dean answers call with, damn it, Cass, I need to sleep, which could mean nothing. Which is so true.
But yeah, I'm surprised that he called Dean. Like, this is like immediately after the Lucifer dream? Like, it's 4:15. It's the middle of the night. I'm assuming he, like, just woke up from the Lucifer dream.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's been, like, pondering about it. But I think it is immediately after. Well, no, he's in the car already, so he went out to drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to clear his head or go somewhere or whatever.
Probably to go somewhere, because it might be a bit scary to have the devil in your...
Yeah, you'd probably want to be in a different motel room just in case he was able to see some details of the room. Yeah. Are you surprised that he would call Dean so immediately? Like, Dean has not proven himself to be worthy of trust in this regard.
It's not surprise. I guess I'm more surprised with how Dean reacts.
Yeah, like Dean doesn't immediately start going that shit about it.
What it is that if Dean wasn't Michael's vessel, he'd be like, see, Sam, you are the devil. But because he is Michael's vessel, and of course the implication of Michael's vessel versus Lucifer's vessel are different, just fundamentally. But
yeah, but also like the angels are just as bad as the demons at this point to Dean, given that they were both working towards the same goal earlier.
Yeah, and like to Dean specifically, he says later, right? Like we're like the oil and fire or whatever of this apocalypse.
We're the vessel brothers.
Yeah, they're the vessel others. And why did I completely missed like one syllable of that word? Well, they're the vessel brothers. Did you say
vessel others or vessel utters? I couldn't tell.
Well, one of those words could mean everything or nothing.
Perhaps.
The implication is different, but because Dean is implied in the same way, implicated in the same way, he's not gonna protest that much as like that being a representative of something bad. So, yeah, I understand maybe that's the logic in Sam's head also, because Sam does know that Dean is Michael's vessel.
Right. Yeah.
And it does
Dean's
follow
the only person
through.
In the same boat.
You give it a little bit of thought, it follows through. Like, of course, they're going to be a brother situation also. The vessels of Michael and Lucifer. Although the way it follows through in the technical ways is still not revealed to them until later this season. I also want to say something real interesting to me, which is that last episode and this episode also, but it happens later. I just want to bring it up now. Lucifer says it has to be you, it has to be you, or it has to be Sam, right? It always had to be. They don't ever say that about Dean. Don't you feel? They never say that it has to be Dean.
Oh, it doesn't because it's Adam.
And that's true. Like, I don't know. I find that so fun that like with Sam, if Sam, because with Dean, it's like they just gave up on Dean at some point. They were like, let's just go to Adam. But with Sam, if they can't, like Lucifer can't give up on Sam, I think it literally is just Sam.
Yeah, because I think it's the genetics and the demon blood.
I find that so interesting that Dean is replaceable in this way that Sam isn't.
Yeah, so Sam is calling Dean 4:15 about something important while he's driving. We don't get, like, that part. We just cut to a little bit later where Dean's like, so you're his vessel, huh? Lucifer's wearing you to the prom, which would be such an unnatural thing to say in a real conversation if there were sentences in between, but it's just an exposition question.
And it is fun that he says wearing you to the prom, and later Lucifer is in a prom-ish outfit. That's fun.
Yeah, Sam says that's what he said. And Dean's being very casual. He just goes, just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in, huh, Sammy? And
Sam was like, Dean, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, he goes, that's your response? Yeah, because he expected Dean to feel a little bit of panic or something. And Dean just says that he's numb to the earth-shattering revelations at this point. Get over yourself, Dean. Oh, since I'm a vessel, it no longer matters if anyone else is a vessel because I'm so special. Like, whatever. But
no, I mean, I'm on Dean's side. I think the Samgirl, Deangirl divide is growing in this podcast. Can you believe it?
I believe it.
Truly hugging us. I also believe it.
I don't know. This seems like a bad thing, and he should be having more of a reaction, or at least be trying to lend some sympathy.
Well, I mean, it's just, how would you do that?
I mean, just a that sucks and is scary is like a lot better than what Dean's saying.
Well, I mean, it does suck and it is scary, but like, well, I mean, Dean was gonna be Michael's vessel. It's not like Sam was like, that sucks, Dean, and that's scary. Like,
he was too busy getting choked out by Zachariah. He couldn't talk.
And he was too busy being told by Dean that I can never trust you again anymore later on, so.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I don't remember Dean's tone very well on the just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in. Is it just like a bitter
comedic,
laugh?
Honestly. Like, just like a little bit of a laugh going. Like, just when they tell you were out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, it is true, like, Sam did think he was out, like, he was like, I'm taking this time for myself to distance myself from all the hell shit, and then, like, the biggest hell shit has hit him. So Sam asks, what are we gonna do about it? And Dean asks, what do you want to do about it? Which feels just like a not my problem statement. Like, it could be read as a nice thing, like, this is like, you're like, this is happening to you, so like, you should be able to like have first opinion on it. But Sam is asking for advice. But yeah, Dean has just seemingly checked out of all of this, which I'm not a fan of, but whatever, it doesn't matter that much. Sam says that he wants back in, and that he's sick of being a puppet to these sons of bitches. I'm gonna hunt him down, Dean. Okay, we were talking about the 503 trajectory with Sam, which is that the show did seem to be saying that him taking a break from hunting was him being a coward, right?
Was it? I don't know. I feel like that is one of the things that is at least a little bit handled with some complexity in this season. Like, I don't think the show was being like, Sam's a coward. But like, also the show kind of like misses the beat in some of it. That's like, oh, it's either he's fully out or he's fully in and he's drinking demon blood and everything. And it's like, well, those are not the only two options.
Yeah.
But I mean, they do address it later on. Like, it is not the only two options.
I don't see how Sam tapping out is being a puppet to these sons of bitches when like Jess Lucifer herself was like, you can't change, you should just go back to what you were doing before. Like, isn't excising yourself from hunting not being a puppet?
We've had this conversation on what that like Lucifer just meant by that. And again, it's not about going back to hunting. It's about being fundamentally wrong with you. Yeah. So I don't think I count that in. But I like, there was the aspect of, I don't know, like, I think being a puppet here is, it's more on the having no control. So like, if Sam didn't go and hunt down Lucifer, it'll be like he's just letting things happen to him instead of being proactive. Which I can see why he would think that.
Yeah,
like, it's just a waiting game now of waiting for Lucifer to find him when he could be going out there and finding Lucifer. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah. And Dean's response to this is so
weird.
Wacky. Like,
I mean, I forgive him for this because I feel like this is the show trying to do something instead of whatever the fuck. Like, we're back to revenge? Like, oh, well, Dean says, like,
Dean
we're back to revenge.
We're back to revenge because that worked out so well last time. How the fuck would who reads this as revenge? It's really like, I don't want Lucifer to possess me, so I'm gonna kill him before he can possess. What has Lucifer even initially done that Sam would be getting revenge on him for? I guess, like, in some way, helping orchestrate the Azazel, like, plot that became the Ruby plot, but like, I don't know, this just doesn't seem like a revenge thing in any way.
This is just follow through of the revenge thing that they're trying to do. This is Dean Winchester looking at the screen and going, here's the themes and motifs. So yeah, it did put me out a lot, this line. But I mean, Sam's reply of not revenge, redemption. How do we compare that to not revenge, justice with Mary in 421?
Well, yeah, I mean, Sam saying redemption is also unexpected for me because I was like, it's a practical thing. You kill Lucifer so he doesn't possess you. But like, no, like, this is like a personal thing for Sam where he's like, Lucifer was directly involved in the me drinking demon blood and getting tricked
And
thing,
stopping
so.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is me redeeming
Is
myself.
me, redeeming myself for starting the apocalypse. And I feel like the justice approach is just like, well,
Afterwards.
I don't want people to be dying of the apocalypse, so I am going to kill Lucifer.
Yeah. Two revenge brothers staring each other. We're not doing revenge. Literally.
Yeah. I'm not doing revenge, and neither are you. And Dean calls them the dynamic duo. Like, hello, you're the Vessel brothers or the Revenge brothers? Like, keep up to date, Dean. And Sam says, I can do this. I can. I'm gonna prove it to you. Which, why does Sam think that they have to do this together?
I mean, I don't know. You can just go back in the field, Sam.
Yeah, like, Sam, you were hunting, like, alone, I guess. I mean, in Mystery Spot, you were not hunting alone when Dean was dead because you had Ruby with you most of the time.
I think it's just help. Like, if there's the two of them, it's gonna be easier to do, I suppose.
Also, Dean has the knife right now.
Oh, you're right. He doesn't have any weapons, Sam.
Yeah. And he burned all his fake IDs. Like, he's not the one who does all that work at Kinko's getting, like, everything lined up.
Yeah, go to Recto, Sam. That's a Filipino reference. Sam should go to Recto, which is the place here in Manila where you can get fake IDs. He should fly directly from wherever he is in the United States to Manila to fucking go to Recto and get fake IDs. And birth certificates. There's a lot of them there.
Is this like well known enough?
No, yeah,
that,
this
like,
is well
it's
known.
fine
Yeah.
Okay. Have on the podcast. Cool. I was like, God, Gray's gonna reveal these people's whole thing.
It's literally there's like places in Manila where like, oh, if you need to get your car fixed, you go here. If you need to buy musical instruments, you go here. If you need fake IDs, you go here. And it's literally it's common knowledge to everyone.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I guess Sam has no weapons. But I do think he says, I'm gonna prove it to you. And he's talking about redemption. So I feel like probably an amount of it is that he's back on the wanting forgiveness from Dean train that he was on in 501. I think that is part of why he wants to do it as a team. Dean says that whatever they do, it doesn't matter because they're the fire and oil of the Armageddon. And that they should just stay away from each other for good to avoid having to fight as vessels or whatever. And Sam says that, like, it doesn't have to be like this and we can fight it. And Dean says that we can, but not together. You think you're strong when we're together, Sam? Try weak. What does he say in 421 again?
No.
Strong together, we're not strong. Try weak. Pathetic. And he says, whatever we have between us, love, family, whatever it is, they're always going to use it against us. Fascinating that love and family are separate concepts.
Things.
Dean Winchester.
But I agree, so
it makes
it's
sense,
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense for him, so it's fine.
Yeah, I meant fascinating as in from a character analysis standpoint, not in a bad writing standpoint.
Yeah.
It's very, him saying he's alone in 503.
Dean Winchester's many things are going on in that head. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dean is right here, right? Like, I think Dean is right here. That they should just not. But, I don't know. I'm not saying it is the wrong decision to hang out again later on. And be buddies again later on. But, like, I do think here, like, again, one, I don't understand why Sam would want this. So, two, when Dean is like, well, we shouldn't, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But I guess there's because they have to look out for each other and blah, 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 and have to keep each other human. I understand the logic of the episode. But here, like, I'm like, well, he's right. I understand the logic up to this point and also later. But up to this point specifically, I understand it.
I mean, yeah, I don't... What? Okay, wait. So why do you think Dean is right?
I think he's right in the same way where it's like where Bobby was like, you have to put aside the family drama just to fucking do the apocalypse. Obviously not in the way Bobby meant it, because the way Bobby meant it was mind-boggling. But there's still so much going on between them. Like, there's still so much baggage here, and just maybe it's not the best thing to enter the apocalypse with all that in mind.
But
it's how I feel.
I feel like that's hard to get over on your own, though.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes.
And as I've said earlier too in the season 4 episodes, where it's like they have to reconcile now, because if they reconcile later, you will have the retrospective analysis of the situation, and it's difficult. It's more difficult to have equal footing, blah, blah, blah. Which is what happens in the show, like, up until this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is I understand why Dean would do this, and I don't think he's wrong for it right now. I also understand why he does what he does later, and I don't think he's wrong for that either.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to bring up something, which is that Dean is wearing the green jacket this episode. And last episode, he was wearing it also, and you brought it up. I am wondering what it means. Because, like, it does matter what they wear, I feel like. No. I just mean, like, you brought it up with relation to...
Is it the 1518 jacket? I thought we decided that the colors were different.
The look is the same. And it's like... We know that when he wears the leather jacket, it means like, oh, this is the daddy issues episode. Well, let's not say daddy issues because you hate that line. Or do you? I still am not.
I'm fine with that phrase.
Let's not get into it.
Especially when we apply it to Dean, but yeah, let's not get into it.
But yeah, like, is the green jacket supposed to represent hopelessness? Like, what does the color green represent in Supernatural when Dean is wearing it?
We've only seen him wear this jacket 2 times, and it's just to show that it's the same day.
But I will continue to look out for it in the future, I feel like.
Yeah, if we see
because
it again,
he also wears
something.
He wears something, I think, akin to this in Purgatory. And that does make me wonder... if they
we'll
are
never
trying
know because
to...
the coloring in Purgatory is so horrible that...
Yeah, he could be wearing a rainbow jacket in that one and we'll never know.
Exactly.
He could be wearing tie-dye. Yeah. God, imagine if Dean wore a tie-dye anything. I think he will combust spontaneously.
I mean, Jensen Ackles would refuse to put it on. He would quit on the spot.
I guess goes back to sleep. And he wakes up and... everything is different. He's in a rundown place and he looks out the window and everything outside is also run down. We are in the future, baby. The future being, in fact, 2014. Absolutely hilarious. I was confused for a little bit because I thought I was like, oh, it's been on quarantine since 2014. And then later we'll learn that it's 5 years after 2014 and it started in 2014. So yeah, I was completely misunderstanding the situation like immediately until I think I was like, oh, no. Like it started like, whatever. It's so bullshit. Everything's horrible. Well, Dean exits the motel. He's walking through the city. There's graffiti everywhere. That's not the most important part. The most important part is that cars are turned over and everything's in shambles. But also there's graffiti everywhere of the word Croatoan. But I don't think he notices it until later.
He doesn't notice it.
Yeah. he sees a little girl. And we know it's a little girl because he goes, little girl.
Little girl.
Little girl. And it's such a funny thing to say. Like, it's such a, like, they're trying to creep us out thing by saying the little girl. But it just sounds stupid as fuck. It sounds so stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if I was in this situation, I would go, hey kid.
Yeah, I'd say kid also.
Not little girl, little girl. And like, why say little? Like, just say hey girl. Or whatever. No, hey girl is
I
bad.
mean, you shouldn't say hey girl. That's different.
Just say hey kid. But no, they're trying to do the whole like, here's a little girl and she's gonna hurt Dean. And woo, isn't that so creepy?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not that creepy. Like, he approaches the girl and says like, it's kind of creepy that you're not responding, right? And the girl like tries to attack Dean with a knife or a glass, but something. And Dean just smacks her. And she falls to the ground like face first. And yeah, Dean notices the Croatoan people start showing up and they're like seemingly cornering him. And then we have a chase. Have you heard about the whole thing about this chase, the behind the scenes?
No.
Have you come
What
across
happened?
it?
Were people injured?
No. It was just like, because it was a chase and they wanted to make it look realistic that like Dean is running and these people are running as well. Mm-hmm. But they needed Dean to have a lead. So they were like thinking about how to make it so that the others would run seemingly normally, but Dean can still be ahead.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to do that, and then they filmed the scene, and Dean and Jensen Ackles apparently was just a really fast runner that they didn't have to do anything else. He was just such a fast runner. And I had that in mind while watching this episode. And honestly, I think it's a lie. Like, I think that
They made that up for his reputation.
Because if it was true, they did not do a good job utilizing it. Because I feel like there's no single like shot really that utilizes that fact. It's so, I understand it's because they probably were thinking about camera placements and we have to manipulate it to make it look real in mind. So they weren't thinking like, oh, but Jensen is a real fast runner, so let's put like an above shot or something that's really, really show it. But the cuts were so, and everything that like, I was like, oh, they doctored this. But apparently they didn't. Apparently he was a really fast runner. So I don't know.
Well,
I remember that post because it calls him like really fast, like a gazelle. And I was like, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, I believe. But okay, well, maybe it's not. Who knows?
Who knows?
But anyway, eventually Dean gets cornered on a chain link fence. And then suddenly tanks come in and start shooting at the Croatoans. And he ducks down and hides. And there's this part where it's like shot, 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 and then a soldier pauses to play music. And it's like, American music, American rock, whatever. And then the shots keep on firing. And I was like, look at this fucking American fantasy bullshit. It literally fucking is. So what is the logic here?
Behind the music?
No, not the music. Like the entire situation. So you have the government. These are government people, right? Like these soldiers.
Yes.
They're government military.
Yeah.
And Camp Chautauqua is not affiliated. Because
it's just a fringe thing that's like right nearby that the government doesn't care about.
It's like it's a different quarantine area. Is that what we're supposed to believe?
The quarantine areas are like areas with high Croatoan infection density, though.
I mean,
right?
like, sorry. Like, I just mean like they're in a different pocket of place that's not infected yet, or what? Because that's the only conceivable thing I can think of.
I think the fenced off place is where all the infected people.
Yeah. So Dean comes in, and it's a different location, or they're also just inside that place. Where's Camp Chautauqua? Where the fuck is it?
It's like,
and also, Dean is in Kansas City. Where the hell is Bobby's house? Isn't it in Sioux Falls? Is that near?
Yeah.
So he walked to Sioux Falls?
Is in South
It's in
Dakota. Let me look on the maps how far that is from Kansas City.
It's a 5-hour, 24-minute drive. How the hell did he get there?
137-hour walk. Did he steal a car? Probably he just stole a car, right?
Yeah, but are the roads serviceable?
I guess.
I was wondering about
and no, you're right. So, yeah, you're right. He had to drive to Camp Chautauqua, so it was not right next door to the quarantine area. I totally forgot about the Bobby's house.
No, he drove to
nothing.
He drove to Bobby's first, and we're assuming that Camp Chautauqua is near Sioux Falls, I think.
Okay.
Or in that area. So it's a different place, and it's not reached by the government.
In the transcript, it says that Dean hotwires a car, and then we see him driving.
Oh my god, you're right. I completely forgot about that. There was a hotwiring scene.
He shows up at Bobby's house, so that explains that.
He did not walk for 137 hours. Yeah.
After Dean escapes the quarantine area,
he hotwires a conveniently located, conveniently fueled car. As the
someone in this transcript is throwing shade.
Someone in this transcript is asking the same questions that we are.
Yeah. And the thing that surprises him is that a sign outside of the quarantine area says that this area is no entry by order of Acting Regional Command, August 1st, 2014. So it's at least 5 years in the future.
When did it start? Like, when did the thing start? Because the way Cass talks about it, a year ago I broke my foot, I was laid up for 2 months. I thought they were already here at that point. Like, I mean, here as in Camp Chautauqua. So when did the virus start? And also, it's still
quickly.
2014? It's quickly after 2009. Okay, yeah. How do they still have supplies? Are there growing chickens in this place?
Well, okay, like, is the U.S. the only Croatoan affected
No, it went to Australia, right?
It went to Australia.
And also, who is still printing the fucking newspaper?
I mean, I think that people would be focusing a lot on the news during a time of crisis.
Yeah, but usually when that happens, I think the radio is the most efficient way to produce it and not the fucking newspaper physically that you need to deliver places.
I mean, some people can't hear or whatever. Like, I get putting some amount of effort into the
what I'm talking about, like, the delivery of the newspaper. Like,
well,
how are you gonna get that to places?
With the newspaper, like, we don't know they were delivered. Maybe they were just in a big stack outside of the printing house.
How are they sending out reporters to be like, hey, so they're like, well, how is the journalism industry that is currently dying surviving in this fucking apocalypse?
I don't find it that questionable. Like, someone in Australia gets it, and the people who don't get it call, like, some journalists and are like, oh my god, someone got it, and then they print it.
I highly doubt that a priority would be calling a journalist when you're in such situations. But okay, maybe so. It's a way to contact the government, ideally. Going through the press.
Yeah, or, I mean, the press would also be talking to the government, and the government would be trying to spread, like, the government would want this to be printed in all the newspapers so that everyone's aware.
But, okay, what date was the Zachariah newspaper? Because it could have been, like, at the beginning of the Croatoan, and now...
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah, let's not get into this fucking fake-ass... apocalypse logic.
Yeah. Right, so Dean's driving, but he can't get any cell service or any radio signal. So, yeah, all the towers got fucked. And Zacharias shows up in the car with a newspaper. He reads off some headlines. Croatoan pandemic reaches Australia. President Palin defends bombing of Houston. There's no more sports because Congress revoked the right to group assembly. I think this is meant to be, like, recent news because Zachariah comments on, like...
What the Congress is.
Yeah, like, what's left of Congress, that is. Like, that seems, like, current.
A present, yeah.
Yeah.
How are they just recently
revoking
banning
the right
sports? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people could have acted faster during COVID too. Like,
But if we are to assume that this started shortly after 2009, it's been 5 years.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Sports are so important to keep the American spirit alive. Zachariah explains that he found Dean via what Dean calls the Bible freak outside the motel. They've been, like, handing Dean's picture out to these people. And Dean demands that he get sent back to his time. But Zachariah says that he needs to marinate here for 3 days in order to understand that his choice to say no to Michael has consequences. And then he leaves.
I can't believe they had Zachariah create, like, a special fantasy universe where Dean is wrong. Like, I mean, they literally...
That's the universe also, but wait, sorry, you should finish your joke. I don't think I get it yet.
No, like, it's just like, in the universe of Supernatural, Dean is always right. And Zachariah had to create a very special fantasy universe where Dean is wrong according to the narrative. Like, slay.
I mean, I think we're supposed to read this as the real future. It's just that I am incapable of doing so because of the inconsistencies in characterization.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Zachariah says later that, like, the time for tricks is over or whatever. But who give a shit about what Zachariah says? Like, Dean asks Zachariah, like, is this all jokey? And Zachariah says, no jokies. So, like...
So this is, like, we're supposed to believe that this is the real future.
Well, if we are to believe Zachariah, which I don't, this is the real future. But I don't, so I don't think it is.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think it is either, but I think that the writers intended...
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
Huh. Really?
We're supposed to doubt Zachariah, I feel like.
Are we?
I mean, I don't know what the writers intended.
Lie in Supernatural unless they, like, have a big reveal at the end that they lied. You know what I mean?
I don't know. So you think this is as in quite like Mary and John and, like, Dean going back to that? This is that, but in the future?
Yeah. I think that is how we're meant to read it.
I think it's just because... We know what the future looks like, and it don't look like this. So it's hard to think.
Because different choices were made.
I know, but still. But there was an Apocalypse universe in season 13 that I forgot all details about on why it was like that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, was there like a Croatoan thing there?
I mean, there do not know.
There wasn't an Apocalypse Sam or an Apocalypse Dean, right?
Yes.
So it makes sense that Sam got possessed by Lucifer and then killed Dean in that universe or whatever.
So that one is I mean, I don't know why I'm asking you.
I don't know anything about it, but I could... Like, if we find out later that it's a continuation of the Croatoan
it will make
verse,
sense.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There was a cat
isn't
there.
that the one where Sam... Wait, I thought that was the universe where John and Mary never fuck.
It wasn't.
Was that what it was?
No. Was it? I don't know.
I mean, I guess you could look it up.
I don't want to. I really don't want to. Let's just proceed with our lives and have everybody who has watched Supernatural.
20 years that it'll take for us to get to season 13.
Yeah, but it will also bother all our listeners, and that means they will continue to listen until season 14.
Also, Apocalypse versus it starts in season 12.
Season 13. No, it starts
at the end of season 12. The Watchtower, whatever.
No, I mean it starts there, but
coloring?
Mary just gets transported there, but we don't see it yet.
Okay. I guess we still don't know if this is the real future. I'm of the opinion that the writers think it is, but that I think it isn't. It's up for interpretation. Dean goes to Bobby's house, and it's empty and trashed. And then he goes in and he goes, oh no, because Bobby's wheelchair is tipped over and there's bullet holes in it. What did they do with his body afterwards?
No. Maybe it decomposed it, and Dean was looking at bones below as well. He just didn't bother to pick it up.
Maybe so. He opens some hidden mantle compartment where Bobby's journal is, and in there is a photo of Bobby with Cass, and they're all like holding guns and posing.
And it zooms into Cass because before it zooms into Camp Chautauqua, the symbol.
Yeah. Okay, so Bobby died in his house. So he went over to the camp. He went and posed with the guns. And he was like, thanks for letting me visit, guys. I'm going back to my house. And then he got shot to death.
I don't.
I mean, I guess I understand if he's like, I still want to, I still like my house and I want to stay in my house and run the Hunter Network out here, but why is I'll
he
come over and visit
over there?
Yeah, I don't.
With a gun.
Like maybe he helped in the setting up of the camp, but he was like, I don't want to stay here. So and they're like posing in front of the sign after they first set it up, and he's like, all right, good work, boys. I'm off. I still find it quite silly, though.
Do you like Cass's beard? Don't you?
It was hot in images, but now that I have heard him speak and act, it's no longer hot. Yeah.
I think, honestly, that's also what I feel, because I've always been averse to this look. But maybe not the look itself. Maybe it's the association of the everything with it. Mm-hmm. The implications, etc.
Yeah. Dean drives over to Camp Chautauqua. There's a fence, and then there's a bunch of people who are all men with guns who are on the lookout for intruders. Dean sneaks around and he sees the Impala, and it's all fucked up, and he goes, oh baby, no.
Baby, no. No, baby. And Dean fucks this car.
Yeah, those exhaust pipes do get tired out sometimes.
Don't say that.
What? What does he fuck of the car then?
No, it's just a general concept. We're not gonna go into specifics.
But the jokes are all about exhaust pipes. Is
it really?
Remember the supernatural version of the fucking the homophobic sperm comic where there's two sperm and one of them is I can't wait to make a baby that can vote for Biden, and the other one says, no dude, we're in some guy's ass, but then the supernatural girlies edited it to say, no dude, we're inside the exhaust pipe of a 1967 Chevy Impala. You've seen that. he's like reaching towards the Impala, but then someone shows up behind him and knocks him out. And
we pan up, it's Dean.
It is Dean from
with
2014.
a deeper voice and a military jacket.
Yeah, cool it, George W. Bush, or whatever that post said.
I love that post so much.
It's pretty good.
When I'm wearing a very mask outfit and I put on a guy perfume, which I very rarely do, I'm like, oh, cool it, George W. Bush.
So true.
So true.
Also, I take back what I said about the jacket meaning nothing. I thought you were saying that that 2009 Dean is wearing it, but actually you meant 2014 Dean is wearing it?
No, I'm not. I know. But it is fascinating, too, that here, after Dean wakes up in the future times, he puts on another jacket. So it's a blue one now. And his green jacket is underneath it. And Dean, 2014, is wearing the green jacket. A green jacket. And I do, like, it is like a hopelessness thing. I think, still.
And the transcript calls the jacket military issues.
Yeah,
so
it's a different one.
It's just, I think that jacket is just like, he's in soldier mode now.
Yeah. I will need to get more evidence in future episodes. I will take a look at every single time Dean is wearing something green.
Cool.
I mean, it does complement his look, I believe. Don't tell anyone I said that. But it looks good in his like hair and skin tone and eyes. Okay. Don't tell anyone I said that.
Okay, I won't.
So we are in Camp Chautauqua now, inside like your headquarters or whatever. And Dean, how are we going to fucking discuss, like, how are we separating Dean from Dean Future?
Let's
just skip Dean and Dean Future. Okay, so Dean is tied up and like handcuffed inside the room. And Future Dean is over on the other side. He is butching it up. His voice is so low. It's so low. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I mean, why? It's just to show like gruffness.
He had 5 more years of voice training. But yeah.
So he said that he tested him with silver salt holy water. Which is... Didn't they do that with Adam and then Adam still turned out to be a ghoul? So like obviously... There's other things that you ought to do, Dean. Have you forgotten about Adam, Dean? You've forgotten about your brother, Dean. But
yeah, I think he did.
I literally think he did. Like, I think he will continue to forget about Adam until time immemorial. And he also says that Dean has all of the lockpicks and weapons and everything that future Dean carries. So... He's like, what are you? Can you explain what you are and the resemblance to? And Dean says, it's Zachariah. And he sent me here 5 years into the future. And future Dean is saying that he wants to talk to Zachariah. But Dean's like, well, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Future Dean asks if there's any way that Dean can actually prove it. Like, tell me something that only the two of us would know or something. And what Dean says is, when they were 19, Rhonda Hurley made us try her panties. And they were pink and satiny. And you know what? We kind of liked it.
I don't have any thoughts about that.
I also
line.
don't have
I know
anything.
people care about it, but
I paused because I know people care about it, but I'm not gonna make further comments.
I mean, I feel like if I had anything to say, it would just be about like how that shouldn't be like a thing that's so embarrassing that like you keep secret from everybody else. Like, I mean, if you don't want to talk about
embarrassing,
like, okay, what do you think?
It's just like it's a private thing. Like, you don't sleep and tell. Sleep and tell. You don't kiss and tell.
But this is about him. This isn't about Rhonda Hurley.
But
like
it's still, the way it is portrayed is like a sexual thing, right?
Oh no, I mean, I agree that it's a sexual thing, but okay, isn't you don't kiss and tell about like respecting the other person's privacy?
I mean, yeah, you're right. I think to me it's also, I just don't want to talk about having sex.
I think that Dean would talk about having sex.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay, but like there is a reason that this was singled out. Like if he'd never talked about having sex, it would be like, we had sex with a woman named blank, and it's like, damn, I never tell anyone the names of the women I have sex with. So yeah,
no, of course.
Yeah.
This one is more, like, I wouldn't classify it completely as he's ashamed of it, just because of the way it was delivered also.
Yeah, I don't think he delivers it
tongue-in-cheek.
like it's something to be ashamed of, but I think
it's just not, it's not something he would bring up around other people, is the way it's portrayed. Which are different things.
I it's like, I think it's just portrayed as like, it's kind of weird. But like,
I did like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is coming from a guy who thought like the kinkiest thing he can do, and he shouldn't, is like be slapped around by a girl wearing a Zorro mask. So,
yeah, like,
I don't know.
That's nothing, bro.
Like, okay, slay, I don't know. This convinces future Dean, and then he stands up and he goes over to a table and he starts cleaning / cocking his gun. Is that a proper term?
Is he pointing it at things?
No, he's like doing the click, click. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because this episode is full of clicky AMV moments. And this is one of them. Like when he's like fixing up his guns, it's a very clicky AMV.
I think cocking your gun is about pointing it and not about...
No, it's just doing the
Wait,
click,
no,
click.
it is doing the thing. No, you're right. It is pulling back the hammer. I've been reading everything wrong my entire life.
Yeah, when you're jerking off the gun, you're cocking it. Yeah. Every single time they show a clip from the clicky AMV, I will go just like in the clicky AMV for real. Dean is asking about what's happening. And it's just, it's Kuroto and blah, blah, blah. He asks about Sam. And future Dean falls silent. And he just goes, well, there was a heavyweight showdown in Detroit, and from what I understand, Sam didn't make it. Dean asks, I do find this question fascinating. You weren't with him? Aww. It did make me feel an emotion. Future Dean says, no, me and Sam, we haven't talked in 5 years. Which, I think from this moment, Dean should be aware that it means Sam is still, quote, alive in some way. He just got possessed. But I don't know. Maybe I think a part of Dean just would never have expected that of Sam. Perhaps
yes.
Dean, perhaps Dean would never think that Sam would say yes. And so it just did not cross his mind. But there is also the implication that because future Dean says, from what I understand, he's unsure.
Yeah. So, he doesn't know if Sam's dead.
Yeah. But Dean asked too, right? Did you never try to look for him?
Tried to find him, yeah.
And future Dean says, I don't know. I have other things going on.
Yeah,
so
he said I had to gaff.
Yeah, he said, I have a podcast. I'm about to run, Dean. He goes out to do stuff. And he leaves Dean tied up. And Dean was like, what, you're just gonna leave me here? And future Dean says, yep. And he heads out. And
he says he has a camp full of twitchy trauma survivors out there, which implies that informs how he leads, but I don't think
he literally doesn't. Yeah.
He is being trauma sensitive in the way that he leads.
I mean, he explains it later to Dean that they just have different standards now.
Yeah.
Because Dean asks this exact question that you're asking later.
Right, the like you don't think that like shooting a guy in front of everyone right inside the camp could have like
traumatized them even more.
Yeah,
but the future Dean has an answer. I do find here that like he's saying that like there's an apocalypse hanging over their head, which kind of implies that it's not happened yet.
Yeah, I guess, but it has. So
I mean, Supernatural is so ungodly funny because every single time it's like I'm sad you see her like in season 4 it's like the apocalypse is coming, we have to stop the apocalypse. Oops, we didn't. And then season 5 is the apocalypse is coming, we have to stop the apocalypse. The entire season, it's literally the entire season. The last episode of the season is about how the apocalypse was stopped. Like, okay, I thought the apocalypse was starting in 402.
Yeah, I don't know, man. They keep moving the goalposts.
It's because doing the actual apocalypse is too much. Like, how are you even gonna show that? Oh, in speaking of how you're even gonna show that, the editing for this episode is wonderful. With the Dean and future Dean. Good for them.
That's true. They would have had to edit that.
Didn't they submit this to the Emmys for best editing or whatever?
Did they?
They did,
well,
yeah.
How did it do?
I mean, obviously it didn't win any Emmys because if it did, we would constantly be hearing
people would
about
be saying
Emmy
winning show Supernatural in every joke post.
Yeah. They won. Did they ever win GLAAD?
The GLAAD award?
It was just GLAAD nominated.
I think they were just nominated.
Yeah.
Let me
GLAAD nominated,
GLAAD.
Emmy submitted show Supernatural. We already had this discussion before. I severely do not think they won.
Oh yeah, no, it was nominated and it lost every time. And of course, most importantly was that in 2014 it lost to an episode of Elementary.
Yeah. 2014
which I remember
being the Charlie episode, yeah.
Yes.
And then the one prior is the one where the gay couple is playing Sam and Dean in a LARPing situation. And the one before is the gay love can pierce through the veil of death and save the day.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, God, the state of things
believe
that Go Be Gay for that poor dead intern was like, this is the height of positive gay representation on our television today.
I cannot believe, like, that this is it. Like, what? How is this winning an award? Like, I mean,
actually, I think the wincest cosplayers is even worse this is the best we get.
Like, wow. I'm just getting nominated. But okay, fine, whatever.
What a time.
Whatever. And then Dean, who is just left there, gets, like, pries out a nail. A rusty nail, maybe. Out of the floorboards. And he uses it to uncuff himself. Well, maybe this is the actual tetanus thing that killed him. And
very slowly. Cass heals him over and over until he can't. Yeah. Dean heads out. And Chuck is here. Oh my god. Hi, Chuck.
I love Chuck.
I do
love
Chuck.
do
enjoy seeing him.
Why is he ever gonna become God? The fuck this stupid baka life or whatever people say.
If he and Sam had dated like they would have if Supernatural was a better show and really wanted to win those GLAAD awards, then he wouldn't be God.
Would they have a terrible breakup or would they be together for so long? It's been so long, baby. They're fine.
I think they'd be fireproof.
They would be fireproof. Just like Azrael and Crowley in the playlist I made.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
I never clicked on that one. Sorry.
You should have. There's a lot of corny ass songs in there.
I'm not going to listen to One Direction, no matter what package you wrap it in. But Chuck says, well, he's talking to Dean like he's the leader of the camp, which as far as Chuck knows he is. So he's talking about supplies. They're low on perishables and hygienes. What should we do? And Dean goes, I don't know, like maybe share. Chuck says that wait, aren't you supposed to be out on a mission right now? And Dean is a bad liar about it. And then a woman named Risa comes up and tries to hit him, and Risa is Filipino.
I didn't even think to look it up, but Crystal did, and she's Filipino. Hell
she
yeah.
is Filipino.
Hell
yeah, but also not hell yeah, given the situation.
What I was thinking about when Crystal informed me of this was that there was the many, and I mean many, like Reddit posts about how is it that Dean loves busty Asian beauties, but like there's not a single Asian woman in the repertoire of women that he sleeps with, and apparently there is. Apparently there fucking is.
How many Asian women have been on Supernatural? There was Nancy, and there was Maggie. And those were both in season 3.
Who are these people?
Maggie, one of the ghost facers. Yes. Nancy, the virgin in Houston Bello. Was she Asian?
Is she Asian? I think we had this conversation and we were like, no, I think she's Latina.
Okay. Yeah, she's Mexican and Puerto Rican, so
yeah.
She is not, as far as we know, Asian. Okay. Yeah. So we had one other Asian woman on the show.
Well, does this matter? It matters because of the further context of Asian women in Supernatural. Well, yeah, because
the point was like,
if there wasn't,
like, why doesn't Dean have Asian women girlfriends? It's that there's only been one other Asian woman on the show so far.
Yeah,
and so like half of the Asian women on the show are women that Dean has slept with.
Yeah, if you look at it from that perspective, it says a very different story.
There is a high Dean sleeping with Asian women rate.
Well.
Yeah. I'm sure we've missed someone. If we've missed someone, someone should email us or ping us. I know in Changing Channels, the like woman in the bikini that shows up briefly in the sitcom, I think is Chinese.
Is that true?
So, I think I looked it up before in the past.
I don't recall.
Okay, I'm gonna go on Changing Channels IMDb, but like scroll down to the bottom before I see the number.
I think for me, there is already a perception of foreign. So like, perhaps I have a lesser ability to like immediately think about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's like a hierarchy of identities, and for me, like the hierarchy of American supersedes quite a lot of things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have a less tendency to remember Asian people especially in Supernatural, where the whole point of it to me is that it's American. Like if it's another show, I probably remember.
Okay, her name is Beatrice King. Yeah, her mom is Chinese and Spanish. The girl in the bikini in Changing Channels. So, yeah, no, actually high rate of sexualized Asian women in Dean's vicinity on Supernatural. Yeah, I think just a lot of them are mixed race, so like the Redditors couldn't tell. But I recognize a fellow Asian when I see one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a long tangent. But anyway, yeah, Risa's here and she's Filipino. And she tries to hit Dean. And Dean's like, whoa, geez, easy, lady. I hate when Sam or Dean calls people lady on Supernatural. It always feels like they're dismissing their feelings. And Dean is, I guess, now.
Yeah.
So Risa's angry. She says, you spent the night in Jane's cabin last night, didn't you?
I did appreciate that when Dean goes, easy lady, Chuck goes, it's Risa.
Yeah, that's true. Chuck is drinking an amount of respect women choose.
Yeah, but I think there's also an implication that he likes Risa. Because he goes, hi Risa at the end.
Yes. Yeah, that is part of it. So I guess he does not necessarily respect women. Like, Dean goes like, what? Did I? And Chuck nods. Chuck is trying to home wreck Dean and Risa so he can move in. Yeah, and Risa says, I thought we had a connection. And she puts quotes around the word connection, which means that Dean was the one who said
it
to her that he felt something emotionally, probably just to get her to sleep with him more. So that's a wonderful thing to think about. And Dean is sort of laughing, and he goes, well, I'm sure that we do, like, die. Die.
I mean, how is he supposed to react here? Because it's not like it's him.
Yeah. I would just be like, sorry. I think I'd just say sorry. I don't like what do you think you would say in this scenario? That would definitely happen where you, yeah.
I would say there's been a misunderstanding and it will make Risa much, much, much angrier.
More angry, yeah.
But I'm like, but I'm telling the truth. There is a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I'm not the Dean who did that. I'm actually like him from
I'm
5 years
Dean.
earlier. I don't know
not
who you
the person
are.
that I was yesterday.
Yeah, the Dean you knew is not the Dean standing before you right now. I've changed and I changed. So she's still angry, and Chuck goes, hi, Risa. And Risa ignores him and says, screw you. Dean's like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting blamed for shit I haven't even done. The idea is that Dean would do this, though, right? Like that Dean is a cheater or something?
Is he? Again, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this is a realistic
But
fucking
I don't. But like,
portrayal.
I feel like if Dean was like, "This is something I wouldn't do," like he'd be a little more
We've
like,
seen
"Man,
Dean,
future me's an asshole, isn't he?" You know what I mean?
Like, we've seen Dean cheat in After School Special.
Oh yeah, we have. He is
But
a cheater.
we also will
did he try to get with
Dean.
Sam's prom date? And oh no, that was in What Is and What Should Never Be. So we don't know if that happened in real life.
Yeah. No, but like we have seen Dean in older, and like with Cassie, he seems decent. With Lisa later, he will be decent. So,
Yeah, and I guess this isn't necessarily cheating because it seems like they didn't settle on like being exclusive, but he did sort of imply things.
I think if I told the audience of this podcast my views and opinions on cheating, I will be persecuted because every single person I have talked to, aside from you, I think, has been like, "Great, you're absolutely fucking insane about it."
Well, I will present a united front.
Of what? Cheating is fine sometimes? Yeah.
I mean, it's not, but there are worse things to do.
There are worse things than cheating, and I think cheating is attributed to so much bullshit
Yeah, no,
that
I
like
think that the word
it's not even cheating.
doesn't mean anything anymore. Because like, if someone is like someone
people
cheated on
are
me,
using
like,
it so
it's
all-encompassingly.
Like, sometimes they just mean like someone like is watching porn or like it has a friend.
Yeah, there are stuff that are definitely cheating and are definitely wrong. But I think there are layers to it, and the way it is talked about is so mind-bogglingly uncomplex. And it's like, this is experienced by so many people. So many people have done it. And so, like, I think it warrants some kind of complexity. I don't know. Or maybe I'm completely in the wrong. But I've not yet been convinced by any single person who has made that argument that I'm wrong. So I don't know.
Real. But yeah, I don't know.
It's just because every single time somebody is like, "Great, that's so odd that you think that," I go to you and I'm like, "Crystal, they said blah, blah, blah," and you're like, "blah, blah, blah," and then I go back to them and I said, "Well, my friend Crystal thinks I'm right, so I'm right."
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's like not really one idea of what a relationship is meant to mean and like what is allowed and not allowed inside of it unless you have like a pretty explicit conversation about it, just because a lot of people are in open relationships or like a lot of dating is casual. So it's
I think our conceived notions of what cheating is so highly based on a very whatever kind of normative mindset that we have about relationships. And I think a lot of people don't fall into those. And even people who fall into those categories shouldn't have to exist in a world where that is the only, those are the only definitions, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And nobody's arguing with me because
I think that
agree.
Dean is still an asshole because I think the implication
And
is
Dean
that
is terrible.
yeah, I think the implication is that he lied about them being he tried to intimate towards her that he was thinking about becoming exclusive in a way that she clearly believed, and I think that he wanted her to believe. So that's still bad.
Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, this is tangent, but like the other day I was talking to a friend about this and he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like laughing the entire time. So he was like, "Are you being like serious right now? Or is this like a joking thing that you're like making fun of me because you're laughing also?" And I was like, I truly have no idea how to answer that question. Like, I'm saying all of this recreationally, but I'm also being so serious right now. So I don't know.
Well, Dean asks after Cass, and Chuck says, "I don't think Cass is going anywhere," and directs him towards a cabin where the world's most annoying man lives.
Well, first of all, let's focus on that. I don't think Cass is going anywhere. Like,
I think
people
the point
think
is just
that.
he doesn't have any powers.
Yeah. He doesn't have any powers. He doesn't have anywhere
He's
to
got
go.
nothing going on for him. He's got no friends.
But it is, again, like, there is the perspective of what is happening in the camp. Like, what Chuck as Zachariah intended for him to mean here means it here. But also how Zachariah formulated all this for Dean to react to. And it's like, well, this is a crazy line to say to Dean, who is just looking at this from the outside, I believe. And I mean, at that moment, he does not know yet that Cass is what he is now. So, I mean,
so he's just
that
like,
could have
me and
struck
Cass
a
are
nerve.
really good friends in the future.
Yeah, I think that struck some kind of nerve. So, yeah, as Crystal said, we enter the cabin of an annoying ass guy.
Yeah.
And it's Cass.
Yeah,
And
can we come up with like a new name for him, like Bob, like just to distinguish him
Cass.
between the real Cass?
We forgot the term Enverse for future Dean.
Oh,
That is
that's what people call that
Yeah.
guy.
Enverse Dean. So yeah, this is Enverse Cass. Because future has a different connotation, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Future
that implies
Cass
that
has
this
a
is
different.
actual.
And also, there is an episode called The Future, and for me, that's Future Cass.
True. And he was meant to be shirtless in it.
He was meant to be shirtless, and Dean's supposed to kneel in front of him.
While Sam runs through a field. Yeah. Well. What was that? Okay, I mean, they didn't film it because they also read it and went, what was that? So, the questions have been asked.
Let's look up who wrote The Future.
Who wrote it? Was it who was it?
Who the fuck? It's Meredith Glynn and Robert Barrett. Yeah, they fully intended that shit.
I wonder who stepped in and said, "Stop this."
Stop this! It was Kim Manners' spirit. Enverse Cass is sitting on the floor of this cabin, and he's surrounded by 4 women? And
is it only 4?
I think so.
Okay, it seemed like more, but 4 makes sense to me.
Yeah, so he's sitting there and he's talking about...
Yeah, also we see around his place and like there's a bead curtain, there's like a Buddha statue.
Oh, no, the music.
And yeah, there's the hashtag Eastern music.
Yeah.
Going
hashtag
on.
Eastern music.
Yeah, so, it's very, like, drawing on, I guess, New Age mysticism, which is a bastardization of, like, just Buddhism and also like Hinduism and various other religions.
And verse cast is talking about stuff like perception
Sure
and
is.
compartments and fragmental blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then he looks up and sees Dean. And
well, yeah, before he sees Dean, like he's saying that like they're trying to achieve some kind of like spiritual group mind, and you have to do that through a physical, like the way to that is surprisingly physical. So he is using like fake religious shit that he made up in order to get these women to fuck him. And
also, I'm supposed like, there's the aspect of people know he used to be an angel, probably. And so they're like, well, he's probably right about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess there is a way to read it as, like, it's just, like, role play, and they know that it's not, like, they don't genuinely believe in it, but, like, we don't know that that is the case, and I don't think that that is the case. Like we're not supposed to read this as like evil, but we're not
supposed to, but we're not supposed to read much of anything from Supernatural that we read into.
Yeah, and it's like the fact that it's treated so casually, it's like, am I meant to like take this as like everyone here is just being silly and like they don't actually believe it, or more likely this is an episode written by Ben Edlund?
I think there is the aspect of like it could be that, you know, it's post-apocalyptic or whatever, and these are people trying to make
find a larger purpose. And this is a former angel claiming to know shit about religion. Yeah, I feel like if you sat Ben Edlund down and was like, what is going on here, and like got specific with it, I think he eventually would be like, yeah, like they're being deceived and manipulated into it, but I just didn't think it was that big of a deal because I don't see women as people. I feel like that is what is happening. I don't think it's like this is a fun role play. God. I love when they decide that when Cass becomes human, he also becomes racist immediately. Like, remember when he called burritos ethnic food? In like 903 or some shit.
Like, it's
like as soon as he loses like his angel superiority like feelings, he's like, I gotta find another way to have a leg up in this world. Thank God I possessed a white guy.
He spots Dean and then he tells these ladies, excuse me, ladies, I think I need to confer with our fearless leader for a minute, which is what he calls Dean pretty much this entire episode. And then he goes, why not go get washed up for the orgy? Which
it's so sleazy. It's so gross.
Which makes Dean turn his head. And as they walk away, he's like, you're all so beautiful.
What is this?
It is horrible. I don't like it. I don't like it. Who likes it? Absolutely no one.
No one. Absolutely no one. We could have gotten the cockroach thing. Do you ever think about how we could have just gotten the fucking cockroach thing?
Yeah.
And I think the point is that, like, for here, it's like what would make Dean feel the worst? And it's like, Dean is currently, like, we already know that he has, like, intense, strange thoughts about addiction. And that he recently introduced Cass to sex. So, like, these are two things that Dean could blame himself for. So, like, it's helpful for Dean's journey if this is what's happening. But, like, and the cockroach thing is more about, like, I think that is a lot truer to Cass as a character. But since it's not a Cass episode, they just went with this route instead. After the women leave, Dean goes, what are you, a hippie? Not my main concern here, Dean Winchester. Cass just makes some joke about, I thought you'd gotten over trying to label me, which I can't tell if it's a sexuality joke because like that is what the word label means to me pretty quickly, but I don't know if
this is of that caliber, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, I mean, in the moment, he is, like, standing up and stretching and moaning and grunting and whining, so, like...
Sure, yeah, all of those things. And Dean says that they have to talk. Cass goes, whoa, strange. Because he's realized that this is Dean from the past, from 2009. Cass doesn't seem particularly concerned.
Interesting.
Yeah, he calls it interesting. And also the whole time he seems kind of spaced out. Dean goes like, whatever, can you just use your angel powers and send me back to 2009? Cass goes, I wish I could. He like laughs to himself a bit, and then he goes, I wish I could just strap on my wings, but I'm sorry, no dice. And I'm not sure if Dean can tell at this point that Cass is like not like fully human yet, because he asks like follow-up questions later, so I don't know exactly what Dean thinks the situation is now. Because the main concern that Dean has right now is, are you stoned? And Cass says that he generally is. Dean asks, what happened to you? And Cass says, life. Meanwhile, outside, Enver's Dean returns from his mission.
He pops open a beer can just like in the clicky AMV.
Yeah.
And then he shoots a guy.
Yeah, and then he points his gun at one of the guys that he threw a beer to, so fucking wasted beer. He shoots that guy.
Shoots him.
Dean this whole time is like, hey, what the fuck? Like, he yells, watch out, to the guy that Enver's Dean is shooting at. And then everyone's like, what the hell? There's two Deans. And Enver's Dean goes like, damn it. And then he tells the soldiers, who I believe are all men still.
Yeah. The only women here is like Risa and
then the orgy.
The people
ones.
in the orgy. Yeah. So.
Yes. So.
I can't believe I was like defending, like, well, at least she was a leader. And it's like, well, it's horrible. I was defending it in a prior conversation with Crystal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, like the implication, the vibe feels very much like there are men here who do the apocalypse supplies war stuff, and there are women here to fuck.
Yeah. And even when she was like in that group, like when they were making decisions, they still bring up the whole like, oh, and she thought you guys had a connection.
Scene had a connection with her. Yeah, like... Yeah, that's like the entirety of her character pretty much. But yeah, so Enver's Dean says, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, me and him, pretty messed up situation we got going. But when you need to know something, you'll know it. Until then, we all have work to do.
The way Cass is framed this episode, this is Steve Boyum, right?
The director? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think he just loves Cass or whatever? Because there are so many directorial choices of just putting Cass in the middle of the screen, panning to Cass when you don't need to, like the zoom in on the picture, zooming into Cass first before going into the Camp Chautauqua. Here, when Enver's Dean points, he points to Dean, and then Dean turns around to look at Cass, and the camera lingers on Cass. Later on, when they're walking, Cass is in the middle of the screen. It's just, it's fascinating to me. Like, why is Cass so centric to this, like, Enver's stuff specifically? Like, I mean, the modern day stuff, I get. But the past stuff specifically, it's like, it's fascinating to me. And it's extra fascinating. I bring it up in this scene because in this one, Dean turns and then sees Cass, which is the same shot later of Dean turning and Cass is behind him in the Don't Ever Change scene.
Steve Boyum directed in the beginning, so...
He just loves that.
Yeah, he loves the turning around to see Cass sort of vibe. I guess, I don't know, Cass is the most visible... like, quote-unquote victim of Dean's, like, choice to say
Bobby
no
died.
to Michael in this... Yeah, but, like, he's
Chuck
not
is here
visibly.
also.
He's very not visible.
He's
Chuck
invisibly
seems to be doing fine.
Honestly, I think Chuck found a purpose in life. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's having a better time here than he was, like, he's not in his bathrobe, he's not depressed on the couch. Like, I think he seems more chipper here than he was in season 4.
You're right. And also because what are the two lessons here, right? Like, life is bad for people, and Cass is the representation of that. And also, Sam said yes to Lucifer, and that's Lucifer
like
in Sam's body. That's for later. So yeah, like for now, the focus, you're right, ought to be Cass here, because he is the representation of what humanity, quote unquote, has lost in the form of an angel who became human. Yeah, or became mortal, I suppose I should say. Because he seems to still be an angel. Like, he still has the vision, blah, blah, blah. He can sense things. He just doesn't have the powers of an angel.
Oh, yeah. Well,
including immortality.
I mean, maybe he just... You mean he can sense that it's previous
Not
Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't... People look different after 5 years.
No, but it's like, he was... Whoa. You're not you, not now you anyway. What year are you from? Is like a...
That's true. That does
and like
seem more
he did see Chuck, and Chuck the gaff. But if that was Sam, I feel like Chuck would have been like, "Whoa, Sam, you're different."
Yeah, and Sam would go, "Is it my new haircut?" Like he did with Anna. Anverstein shoves Dean into his cabin and is all angry about him, like, revealing his presence to the other camp people. He explains that he killed that guy because he got infected by, like, some Croatoans, and he didn't want to tell him the bad news. He just killed him. Yeah, Dean asks, like, hey, don't you think that, like, murdering a guy in front of everyone, like, freaked everyone out? And Verstein is just like, this is literally normal. Like,
it's
whatever.
normal.
It's normal. Whereas you probably freaked them out. He says that, like, he's in charge, and Dean apologizes. Only person he'll apologize to. No, he's apologized to other people before. And he says that he's not trying to mess us up here. It's just been a weird time. And he asks after the mission, and Anverstein pulls out the cult. Fascinating that Cass was not part of that mission.
Yeah, what
and
is
also
Cass's
that the cult mission
here?
literally took, like, less than a day.
What is Cass's role? Because Chuck's role is pretty visible. He is...
Yeah, like, he's supplies guy.
Yeah, supplies guy. I mean, Risa also doesn't have a visible job.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess... She and Cass were both...
She's like, the girl leader.
Like, yeah, they were both consulted. So I guess they're like...
And they were there for the final one.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, Cass was probably just taking a vacation day or something.
Now that I think about it, it is probably true that this is a fringe group. Because I don't think, like, the government would be like... And it's God, and it's the apocalypse and the angels and demons. So you're right. Like, they are a fringe Christian group to those people.
Yeah.
Camp Chautauqua. Yeah. Because I was wondering about, like, well, why not just make... I don't know, you have people with tanks who can get the cult, maybe. And it's like, well, they don't want to. They're living the American fantasy.
Yeah, so he has the cult. It took Anverstein 5 years, but he finally got it, and tonight he's gonna kill the devil.
You know, in When Harry Met Sally, when you go, oh, just 12 years and 3 months, that's this mission. Like, it took him 5 years and, like, 2 hours to get this goal.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah, we go to them, their meeting. Oh, it's a cult, blah, blah, blah. Risa is like, okay, so we found the cult, but how are we gonna find Lucifer? And Verstein is like, are you okay? But not like that.
But like he is saying it in like a, why are you being so angry right now? Wait, I think that she has brought up a good question.
Yeah. Dean goes like, "Oh yeah, we were at Jane's cabin," and then, he explains the situation, and Dean and Anver's Dean just looks at him and goes, "You want to shut up?" I think Anver's Dean is fascinating because does Dean? I mean, you don't know probably, or maybe you do. I don't think even our Dean, who we hate towards the end of the season, ever turned out to be like this. I mean, I was thinking about that too because like the cast definitely does not end up like Enver's cast.
Yes.
But you can make the argument that Dean ends up a little bit like Enver's Dean. But not really. I think I can make the argument that he doesn't. Yeah, like this is just fake to me. Like this is just not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main reason I think this isn't true is actually because of something that Enverstein says later. So yeah, I think that Enverstein does not feel correct to me.
This is Zachariah putting on a puppet show, pretty much. This is not even a realistic portrayal of a Dean in this situation. Or maybe it is, I don't know. But to me it isn't. This is just puppet play.
Given that all the pussy on Supernatural leaves in later seasons, we just don't really see Dean being an asshole later coming out in any form of being shitty to women, at least. So that part we don't see. In terms of like the practicality, killing people without like telling them or feeling bad about it, like
you can see aspects of that in season 14, but towards himself,
he doesn't follow through with it either.
Yeah, and towards himself, there's a difference between leading people into a suicide mission and putting himself in a box and tossing himself in the ocean. Like those are different things.
Yeah, no, I don't think Dean's really willing to sacrifice other people. Like I don't think that
in this way ever.
Trait for him. Yeah,
it never does. The game plan is to go to Lucifer, who they found out the location via another demon. He says that, "I know for a fact that he's telling the truth." And it's like, why? And Enver's Cass says, "Our fearless leader, I'm afraid." Why are you afraid? Is all too well schooled in the art of getting to the truth.
I love, again, when Supernatural says that things that are extracted under torture are in fact more correct than things not extracted under torture. I'm sure that this is backed up by every single paper in the world and not the opposite.
Yeah. And Dean reacts to this. Of like, "Oh, we're torturing again. That's good. Very classy." And we have this shot of Enver's cast looking up at Dean and giggling a little bit. And
I am surprised that Dean is surprised about this. Like, he's seen this guy. He's kind of a dick. Like, is doing torture again really so far from his mind that, like, this is a surprise?
Perhaps. I mean, the last time we saw Dean quote torture, I don't know why I said quote. He did torture.
He did.
No, but like, I was thinking, like, are there other instances where they hurt someone, like a demon, but it's that they don't consider torture, which they do in Supernatural. Mm-hmm. But the last time he did torture he was very, very distraught by it.
He was distraught before it, but I think once he got into the groove,
Yeah, but he was distraught by the torturing, I believe.
Maybe.
I think perhaps it's a leap too far for him at this point to think, and we're gonna go back to torturing.
Perhaps.
As I said, Cass is like giggling a little bit, and the camera is focused on him, and then it unfocuses on him and focuses on Enverstein's face, who is frowning. And Enver's Cass looks over and goes, "What? I like Past You." Isn't this the one they ADR'd in? Am I misremembering? Yeah, it's supposed to be "I love Past You," and then it was too gay.
Wait, really?
I'm gonna look.
That sounds maybe fake, but also I believe it.
No. You have to believe me.
I have to. Okay. Well, if I have to.
Wait, let's look.
How are you gonna find this?
No,
they
no,
don't do image
No.
descriptions on Supernatural Tumblr enough.
Look at the fucking like
The script
mouth.
Google Drive?
No, not
The
skip
mouth.
Google Drive. Look at his mouth during the video. Do you have the episode pulled up?
I do not have the episode pulled up.
I'm gonna share screen.
Oh, okay.
See, look at the way his tongue like flips. You don't do that for like. Because when like, your tongue is at the back of your mouth. Mm-hmm. Love, the tongue is more in front.
Huh. Okay, well, are any of the, like, scripts? Is there a script?
No, I'm sure we can find evidence for this.
Okay, I mean, I believe it.
I think I'm right, or maybe I'm not. Who knows? So, yeah, he likes past Dean. And versus Dean just goes back to the whole thing. And he relays his plans, which Enver's cast says is so fucking stupid, it's unreal. And he goes... if you do not like reckless, I could use insouciant maybe. And versus Dean asks, well, are you coming? And he goes, of course. But why is Dean? Which is, the question in everyone's mind. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not. I didn't really think it. And the argument Cass is making is that if someone from 5 years ago, if you 5 years ago died, maybe you're going to die too. So that's not a good idea. But versus Dean is just like, whatever, just go get moving. And they do. And Dean asks, finally, when it's just the two of them again, like, why are you taking me? And this is when the reveal happens that Sam said yes to Lucifer. And versus Dean is taking Dean into the strip because he wants them both to see Sam be a vessel for Lucifer. And like the whole thing here is that like you have to say yes to Michael because this is what happens when you don't. Like and Dean is like, no, but like it's going to torch the half of the planet. And versus Dean is like, well, it doesn't matter. Look at everything. And if I could do it again, I'd say yes in a heartbeat. And apparently he's tried like saying yes, but the angels just left and it's too late for him. But for Dean, and Dean is like, there's got to be another way. But versus Dean insists that.
And this is the line where I was like, Zachariah is puppeting this guy.
That's what I thought, but I was cocky. But I was wrong.
Yeah, he goes, I was cocky, never actually thought I'd lose, but I was wrong. And that's not true. Dean currently is not cocky. He doesn't think that he'll win. He thinks that just, like, he'll go down fighting and he doesn't want to say yes to Michael, so he'll just do whatever. Like, there is no cockiness or thinking that he'll win in present-day Dean, but that is what Zachariah thinks. That is why Dean is saying no to Michael. So that was the moment when I was like, this is not real.
It is fascinating that Zachariah doesn't have that kind of insight on Dean's character. Like, he thinks Dean is being stubborn because Dean thinks he's gonna win. Instead of, even if I lose, I don't want to lose like this.
Yeah, I mean, and we kind of see that in It's a Terrible Life too, right? Because Zachariah's argument there, part of it is like, well, you could either have a boring office job or you could like have a lot of sex and like look cool. So what do you want to do, Dean? Like, I think he does overvalue, like he does think that Dean cares more about like the image and like cockiness and things like that than Dean actually does.
Yeah, instead of that, like he thinks that's the core thing instead of being a front to the chorus.
Yeah.
And versus Dean is saying like, I'm begging you say yes, but you won't because I didn't. Because that's not just us, is it? Well, he doesn't say is it in a British cadence. But yes, he does say that.
They're heading out for the mission. They have a quick conversation with Chuck where he tells Dean to hoard toilet paper. Dean says thanks and I'll see you around. And they go. Cass is driving. Dean is in Cass's car. Like, what car is Edverstein in? Is he driving with Risa?
I mean, probably. Why did he put...
It seems kind of weird to, like, split off from Dean.
I mean, here, the intentionality is to talk to Cass. Like, you ought to talk to... He ought to talk to Cass because it's part of the convincing him.
And versus Dean was like, well, my Michael appeal didn't work, but... if we put him in a car with Cass, he'll be like, this guy sucks so much that I must prevent this.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but Cass isn't sucking so much in this scene. He's just having a bad time. So, in the car, Cass takes some pills, and Dean checks them over, and they're amphetamines. And... he tells him, don't get me wrong, Cass. I'm happy that the stick is out of your ass. Crazy thing to say.
And Cass just nods like, yes. Yeah.
And then he asks, but what's going on with the drugs and orgies and love guru crap? And Cass starts laughing. And he goes, Dean, I'm not an angel anymore. And Dean is, like, surprised by this. He's like, what? Even though, like, that was pretty strongly hinted at earlier. And your present day Cass has already lost some of his powers. But, yeah. Cass says that when all the other angels left, like, the rest of his powers just sort of went away. And now he's basically human, and he's definitely immortal. And Dean says, fuck this stupid baka life.
Literally.
Dean says, so you're human. Well, welcome to the club. And Cass goes, thanks. Except I used to belong to a much better club. Real. So incredibly true. Funny. So true. Okay, I think currently, like, season 5 Cass would consider angels to be a much better club. Do you think there's a point in later seasons where he doesn't think that?
So I think an important part here is what he says the most is useless. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's useless. And that's not an angel or human thing. That's a power thing.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, that's not a community thing, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a club thing. That's a personal power thing. Mm-hmm. And
I think he'll always
I don't think there's ever a universe where Cass would prefer to be human than be an angel because of the power. But I think there is a time at some point where he prefers to be with humans than with angels, which are completely different things.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how much of this is Zachariah being like, we're really cool and you guys suck. Like you said, he calls himself powerless, hapless, and hopeless. Why the hell not bury myself in women and decadence, right? I think that we just need to take the word woman away from I think we just need to take everything away from Supernatural until it becomes better.
I mean, this is, booze, women. Just
like that is what Dean said last episode. And he says, why not bang a few gongs before the lights go out? But then, that's just how I roll. None of these sentences, but then that's just how I roll. Well, how is that connected to any of the previous sentence? Well, how is it a but then that's just how I roll? Like, that's not a but, like, that's a and situation. Bedlands, go study your grammar books again.
No. I mean, it's so odd. Because, like, what it is like, if they ended just bang with a few gongs before the lights go out, it feels like there's something missing. You can't just end the scene there. And what I expect was, and I knew that, but then that's just how I roll was going to happen. But what I was expecting for that was, like, that line happens, and then there's, like, a few seconds pause where, I don't know, there's some acting happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, or some self-reflection, whatever. But no, it's just an immediate cut. And the thing is, if there was that time to breathe, this breathing room after this line, I would be less like, oh, what a fucking terrible ass way to end this scene. But because there's no breathing room and it's just the ending of the scene, it's so bad. We go to like in front of this building, I suppose, and they're all like looking into with binoculars, and Cass is there and Reese is there. I mean, like, Dean are leading them into a suicide mission. Like, he knows they're all going to die or whatever. So, horrible. And Dean notices this and asks future Dean for a conversation where he asks what's going on. And like, why are you lying? Why are you lying? You're lying to all of us. And yeah, they cleared, and future Dean says like, there's a reason why there's no Croatoans here. And it's because they cleared a path for us. And this is all a trap. And like, he's going to be using these people as decoys, and Dean and him are going to go through the back of this building, which is, you know, horrible. Dean asks, you're going to feed your friends into the meat grinder? Cass too? Which is, I think the thing here is that Cass already sacrificed so much for you.
Yeah.
Like, Cass, and this is the guilt thing. Like, Cass sacrificed so much for you. Cass became human because of you. And now you're just going to send him to die. Like, this used to, like, and I understand why Cass is distinctified here. I mean, the other people are also going to die, but like, Cass was immortal. Cass was never going to die. And now he's miserable and he's going to die. Like, what a bad combination.
Yeah. And Cass is also the only one here, because Chuck didn't come on this mission, so Cass is the only one here that Dean like knows. I also understand.
No matter what, they're still like, well, Chuck is not gonna be a fucking gun-bearing warrior. Like, let's just leave it be. Let's just put him in the
he's in charge of counting
supplies.
the toilet paper rolls.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him, honestly. Future Dean basically admits to it. And Dean says, something is broken in you. You're making decisions that I would never make. I wouldn't sacrifice my friends. And he's right. As you said, like, this is the thing that is different.
Yeah, I mean, he is willing to sacrifice Jack at points, like in season 15. But I mean, I think he just, his way of doing it is going, Jack isn't family though.
Eventually, Dean protests just a little bit too much, and future Dean knocks him out because of it. Yep. When he wakes up,
like, Heish.
There's, you know, gunfire and everything. There's thunder, there's lightning. And he goes into, like, the garden. And future Dean is dead. He's on the ground, and his neck is being stepped on by a white shoe wearer. And this white shoe wearer is Lucifer.
Hell
in Sam's body.
And he says hello to Dean. He looks great. It is a good outfit.
It is a good outfit, and do you think Jared Padalecki does a good job of differentiating Sam and Lucifer?
Yeah, I think that the eyes are different, the way that they move and the expression.
As someone who has seen Future Supernatural, I would have thought that this was bad. Mm-hmm. But I now realize that a lot of that is because I was looking at it from like what future Lucifer is going to be like. But from what we see of Lucifer right now, this is actually very, very good. Like, this is accurate.
Yeah, future Lucifer is so unserious. But current Lucifer is serious.
Yeah.
You know, Lucifer is facing down Dean, and they're in this garden, and there's like lightning, and there's thunder and shit. And Lucifer is just being very menacing and like holding his body very deliberately.
There's someone who said once, I forgot. I mean, people would talk quite a lot about like Sam's posture here versus, I mean, Sam's posture versus when he is possessed or not himself and he changes his posture. And how, like, as Lucifer and as Gadriel.
Gadriel. Yeah. I don't know how it's pronounced.
His shoulders are straight up, which I do find fun.
Lucifer goes, "Aren't you a surprise? You've come a long way to see this, haven't you?" And Dean tells him to just kill me. Lucifer's like, "Don't you think that would be a little redundant?" And then, like, he puts on this, like, sort of, like, look of, like, sympathy and kindness, except it, like, doesn't really work due to how he's evil and shit. And he goes, "I'm sorry. It must be painful speaking to me in this shape." And he sort of, like, gestures himself, and he goes, "But it had to be your brother. It had to be." Which... echoing what he said last episode and what Ruby has said. Yeah, to Sam.
He tries to reach for Dean's shoulder and Dean, like, moves away from it. So, fun. Yep. That's fun.
That is fun. And he says, "You don't have to be afraid of me, Dean. What do you think I'm going to do?" And Dean says, like, "Well, you're going to destroy the planet." And at this point, Lucifer sort of turned away, looking at a rose, and he goes, "Why? Why would I want to destroy this stunning thing? Beautiful in a trillion different ways, the last perfect handiwork of God." And then he pulls out the fucking... Did you hear about how I fell from Grace story again?
It's so annoying because I was like... Actually, throughout the scene, I was like, is this the first time this is being told? Did I just completely imagine that this has been told before? But no, it has been told before.
Yeah, he tells it to Nick in 501, and we don't get any new information about it. Like, we got, like, half of it-ish from Uriel in Head of a Pin, and then we get, like, the rest of the phrasing from him talking to Nick in 501. Like, this is not new. But whatever. So he says that God cast him down because he loved him more than anything. And God created humans, and he told all the angels to love the humans more than him. And Lucifer, who thinks that he is Cordelia in King Lear, he says, like, that he told God, "Father, I can't. These human beings are flawed and murderous." And then Michael cast him into hell or whatever. Like, is this all we get of this? Like, do we get more information? Is this, like, truly what happened? That's hilarious.
I mean, I'm not sure if it ever gets disproven. But, like, you know, Lucifer's attitude does change. So it becomes less believable, let's say. Mm-hmm. That it's from this kind of benevolence that it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess being in hell for, like, millennia can make you, like, a really shitty person eventually.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible. But, I mean, I don't know, like, if that is what happened, like, they don't really engage with it in the show, I think, in a particularly interesting way. So, I think believing it or not believing it doesn't actually add much to my watching experience. He asks, "Now tell me, does the punishment fit the crime? Especially when I was right? Look what 6 billion of you have done to this thing, and how many of you blame me for it." Hilarious.
Dude,
you
literally caused it. Like,
you literally did do it, though. Like, it's like, it was not a coincidence that, I don't know, what is Supernatural saying? That swine flu... It is a coincidence, though, that swine flu was in 2009. But in the text of Supernatural, it isn't a coincidence. Dean says, "You're not fooling me with that sympathy for the devil crap. I know what you are."
Dean is crying here. Like, he's tearing up. And it was confusing to me why. Because he specifically starts tearing up in the story. And it's like, I get, like, the reasons why I think Dean would tear up here is like,
seeing
it's Sam.
Lucifer talk with Sam's body, yeah.
Well, how I can justify him crying in that moment is perhaps here he is now starting to see the reasons why Sam would have said yes, like how Lucifer could have possibly.
Like he has some forms of rhetoric that would work on Sam, etc.
Yeah. But it was still kind of mind-boggling to me, honestly, that he was crying here. Like, why are you crying?
Yeah. Lucifer asks what he is, and Dean says, "You're the same thing, only bigger. The same brand of cockroach I've been squashing my whole life. An ugly, evil, belly to the ground, supernatural piece of crap. Only difference between them and you is the size of your ego." And I guess this is supposed to be a whole thing, but I don't know. Whatever.
Because we have a complex idea on what hunting is and what monsters is supernatural. This doesn't really fly the way the episode wants it to. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lucifer smiles and says, "I like you, Dean. I get what the other angels see in you." Only one other angel likes Dean. Everyone else thinks he's dumb as fuck.
Well, yeah, but like he is, the vessel, etc., and they are looking for him.
But like, it's not because they like how much of a vessel's personal strength or whatever is involved. Like, what is it about? I get what other angels see in you, or like there are like Dean specific qualities like related to his personality that other angels like, and it's like I think that the people who want him for Michael's vessel don't
like
really
this
care
aspect
about
of his personality.
Yeah, is the will like of the vessel like part of how well the possessing them and using them to fight people? Like, is that part of it?
I think a part of it is how Uriel was like not fond of Dean.
Yeah, he was like, I'm starting to like you, boy, or whatever. Yeah,
that kind of like amusement of your spunky attitude is not helping the case, but it is entertaining.
Yeah,
and I did just use the word spunky, which is pretty fun.
It is. So he turns away to say goodbye. We'll meet again soon, but Dean yells at him to kill him now, or he'll find a way to kill Lucifer, and he won't stop. And Lucifer says, "And we'll know, because you won't find a way, and you won't say yes to Michael, and you won't kill Sam, so you'll always end up here, no matter what. I will win." And, Dean says that he's wrong. Lucifer says, "See you in 5 years, Dean." He leaves, and then Zachariah zaps Dean back to 2009.
Zachariah is in the motel room with Dean now. Dean is still trying to be snarky, but he's obviously very moved or very affected, at least by what happened. So his voice is a little bit shaky, and it's not working really. Zachariah is saying that, you see what happens, you're the only one who can prove the devil wrong. Just say yes. And this is what I'm saying, that Dean asks, isn't this a trick? And Zachariah says, time for tricks is over. Say yes and we can strike before Lucifer gets to Sam, before billions die. And Dean walks away. And then he just goes, nah, I've learned my lesson, but not the one you wanted to teach. And Zachariah gets really mad, and he's like, well, I'll just have to teach it again, because I got you now, boy, and I'm never letting you. He sounds like the PS5 song, you know the one.
Yeah, he does.
It's me, boy, I'm the PS5. He sounds like the PS5.
He is the PS5.
Dean, before Zachariah can get to him, is gone. And Zachariah looks around, goes, son of a... And then we go to Dean on the side of the road. And he's standing there. And he turns around.
Happens to be standing there?
And
is it our favorite character?
He's there. And it's this very quiet scene where, there's no background music or anything. And Cass is just standing there. And I'm not sure he even knows what happened, but he's pleased. He looks pleased. He knows that Zachariah was in the room.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think he
I don't
knows
think he knows
that
about
he got
Enverse,
transported
but I think
to
he knows
blah, blah,
that
blah.
he rescued Dean from something.
Yeah, but he's smiling a little bit, which is it gets to me.
Yeah.
It gets to me. Like, remember when Destiel was nice? Do you? It's crazy. But yeah, Dean goes, pretty nice timing, Cass. And Cass goes, we had an appointment.
Ugh.
Ah! But yeah, Dean puts his hand on Cass's shoulder. And he goes, don't ever change. And Cass just smiles at him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dean, like, takes out his phone and starts contacting Sam. And Cass asks, like, how did they find you? And Dean goes, let's just stay away from Jehovah's Witnesses from now on, okay? As you said. And yeah, Dean calls Sam. And before this, Cass asks, like, what are you doing? And he says, something I should have done in the first place. We go to a bridge, which is Supernatural loves to do. This fucking scenes in a bridge. I've never noticed it before, but it is true that they do love a fucking bridge.
There's like a big bridge scene with like them and John too, right?
Them and John. There's a big one, not a big one, but there's a scene with the siren that's under a bridge. Like the siren episode that's under a bridge. Bunch of episodes where they're just talking under a bridge. It's a fun visual, I suppose.
Yeah.
Why is it a fun visual? What does it entail? It's just a bridge?
I don't know. It's just a bridge.
It's like,
I guess
think
it's
just
about
on
connecting
the side of the
two
road.
sides of whatever the fuck is maybe what they're going for with this one.
Yeah, but also it's this side of the road. Like, you can't do this in the middle of the road, obviously, but it'll be weird to do it in an establishment also. Something that is very clearly not on the road, but also not in an establishment is the way to do it. And a lot of that is on a bridge, on like below a bridge. Dean is there. He's by the Impala. He's my baby. Oh my god, they're reunited and it feels so good. And yeah, Sam shows up in his own car. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
And as he approaches, Dean is holding Ruby's knife and he gives it to Sam. He says, if you're serious and you want back in, you should hang on to this. I'm sure you're rusty.
Right, and that's a gesture of trust specifically because it's like, I'm okay with you hunting demons now.
Yeah. And also that's a sign of Ruby in some way, right? Like that fucking knife. And I mean, we have talked about this, but like eventually Sam's main weapon is going to be Ruby's knife and Dean's is going to be an angel blade, which is fun. Mm-hmm. No, well, Dean's weapon is always going to be a fucking gun. Like that is Gun Boy. But when they're doing combat like that, where it's blades, he is the angel blade guy.
Is the idea that because Sam resisted in the last episode, he now trusts himself more, like, around demons and demon blood? Because, like,
what do you mean resisted? When he was made to drink.
Like, when he was force-fed demon blood by the other hunters and he spat it out. Like,
I suppose
I guess
so. And
yeah, I feel like
I really wish they leaned into the thing I was talking about last episode with Lindsay and the
like
working at the bar.
Yeah, working at a bar, but still, yeah. I agree. I wish they'd leaned into that more too, because I guess there's like, I don't know, giving him Ruby's knife is like a sign of trust, but it's also like, I'm still not sure why Dean trusts him with hunting demons specifically right now. And I guess the decision is just like, I'm just making a decision to trust. It's not that there are reasons for me to trust. I've just decided that that's what I'm going to do now, which I think is fine, yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to hunt together, I have to trust you anyway. So might as well.
So I just will. And then I think that Sam takes it partly because he's honored by this trust and partly because he feels like he's proven to himself something last episode. I don't know, it's a pretty fast turnaround for an addiction recovery arc, but I guess there's gonna be more of it in My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah,
So-
and also Sam really did get like magic sobered by God,
That's
right?
true.
So
That's true.
that does
That
affect.
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and soon he'll get magic, all of his hell trauma taken away by Cass.
Hell yeah.
I love
And then
when
return.
Supernatural refuses to deal with recovery normally.
Sam asks, like, what made you change your mind? And Dean says, well, it's a long story, but the point is, maybe we are each other's Achilles' heel, but we're all we've got. And more than that, and we keep each other human. And Sam says, thank you, really. I won't let you down. And Dean says, oh, I know it. And I was afraid a little bit. I was like a little bit afraid that what he's going to say afterwards. But then he says, you are the second best hunter on the planet. Which I was like, aw.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah, it
sweet.
is like
That
a
is sweet.
deliberate return to like, here's our
Norm,
jokey brother
yeah.
dynamic again.
Yeah, Sam says, what are we going to do now? Dean says, well, we make our own future. And Sam says, I guess we have no choice. Which is so
A
funny.
lot of nothing lines on the end, yeah. But
Okay,
yeah.
so what did we think about this episode? I
Is Dean
liked
really not
it.
gonna tell Sam about Enverse? This is just like how they never talked about It's a Terrible Life. Like, come on, guys.
Dean was like, it's not real because it's a fiction. It's a fragment of Zachariah's imagination.
Zachariah's imagination. Yeah, his headcanon is valid to him.
But yeah, okay, what do we think about this episode? I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I think that was also my impression. I was like, this is pretty alright. I thought that it did a decent job saying what it wanted to say, and it landed in a place that I'm fairly happy with.
Okay, best line, worst line.
We had an appointment is the best line. Yeah.
Well, the worst line is the Jane's cabin stuff. I think. I just
That was
think it's annoying.
quite irritating. Yeah, I'm gonna
Could
go
be
with
the
Cass's
yeah.
like line about the dragonfly consciousness and the way to connect to it is surprisingly physical. Like, you are a terrible person.
Oh, I have another honorary worst line.
Yeah.
Little girl, little girl.
For real.
It's so ungodly funny. Oh, I wanted to point something because I opened my notes to check if I wrote down a best line. But I wanted to point out that future Dean doesn't wear his ring anymore. And you see it very clearly when he handles the guns. And you see it very clearly too when... Because when I noticed it was when, you know, when they drink whiskey and they're facing each other. So the hand of our Dean that's facing us is the one with the ring. And the hand that's Dean future that's facing us is the one without the ring. So you notice immediately that like one person's wearing a ring, one person's not. But Dean is supposed to be wearing it on his other hand.
On the other hand, yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait until it shows us the other hand. And it's not there. So I do think,
Fascinating.
like, as someone who has the same kind of attachment to a ring, you notice immediately when you're not wearing it. And so either Dean lost it accidentally in a way that he couldn't recover, or he purposefully removed it. And I do think about that. Like,
Yeah, that's a fun costume.
I think about it in the context of, does Dean ever remove his ring? Like, at some point in the show? I wonder. I'm not sure. I really am not sure. I mean, people always say constantly, oh, I missed the early season jewelry.
Yeah.
But when does that change? Is something I want to know. So I will keep a lookout for that. But I think my best line ought to go to We Had an Appointment Too, because that is a line that makes you go, oh. Well, I suppose I shall give my line to You're the Second Best Hunter in the World.
Yeah.
Which is also pretty good. So yeah. Spreadsheets.
Yes. There is misogyny.
Of course there is.
What is the number of misogyny?
I would put it fundamental. I would put it 3.
Yeah, I think 3 makes sense. We have had so many 3 misogynies. This is our third 3 misogyny of season 5, and we are only on the 4th episode. Racism, I think there's the use of like Buddha imagery and the Eastern music, etc.
Can I put 2 here, or do you think it's more a 1? Because I also want to count Risa's characterization. Although I would say it falls more into misogyny than anything. But as previously discussed, I would want a 2 here. Homophobia.
Yeah.
Is this
the labeling me line? Is that what you're thinking about, or?
Yeah, but I don't think
know. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, so 0.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think an argument could be made, but I don't wish to make the argument because I don't believe it that strongly. Wait. Panties line? Homophobia?
I think we had a similar discussion in the past about transphobia specifically in the show. And how...
Right.
And we brought this up in that one.
Because I think Dean was
about
saying, like, Sam wears women's underwear
clothes.
as a thing to see that he was, like, asleep or whatever. Or, actually, I think that might have been in Mystery Spot, like, as one of the things that they were saying really fast.
Yeah.
I think given that it is a pattern, given that we've had this discussion before, I would give it a point.
Okay. I'm not opposed to such.
Okay. Yeah. Like, I think there was a time in television where, like, men wearing women's underwear was, like, a big joke. Like, they had one of those in, like, Elementary season 1, too, where, like, Sherlock comes in and he's like, oh, you bankers have to do what I say, and if you don't, I'm gonna start listing off your secrets. For example, that man wears, like, nail polish in women's underwear sometimes, and it's, like, a big, like... So, like, I feel like Supernatural is falling into that tradition. IMDb.
I would say this is a highly rated episode. You go first.
I was gonna put it at maybe 502's level. I don't think it's, like, the highest one so far or anything. So okay. I think I was gonna say an 8.6. You are thinking higher.
I'm gonna go 9.1.
All right. You're probably right. We'll see.
Let's see. This episode is a 9.1. Yes!
Oh my god.
Finally.
Congrats.
Finally. And that's a big one for me too, because you're so
It is
low.
A big win.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I knew
Very
it.
happy for you.
This one is talking about the budgetary restrictions and how they were able to get over that.
Post-apocalypse. Yeah. They did the set pretty well and all that.
Yeah. This one says post season 15. This is from November 22, 2020, which is an iconic time in most people's lives, including me. By most people, I mean most people on Tumblr. This says, only improved since we know Castiel loved Dean during this episode.
Oh my god, boo. I don't think he loves Dean during this episode. I don't think
that is a
I feel like the
thought.
way that their relationship has developed in the Enverse land is, like, different, and I don't think that there is that much love there.
Wait, what do you mean? No, not Enverse, like real Cass.
Okay, well, but, like, okay, so are they just talking about the 2 scenes of real Cass being better? Yes.
I think we had an appointment, don't ever change. Which, I mean, to be fair, in the confession, Cass references the don't ever change. I mean, not he references, but he says, you changed me.
I don't think that's a reference to don't ever change. I think that the word change is a very common word.
It's a reference to me when I make an AMV, but not in general.
People will connect those, but I don't think it was intentional.
On Cass's behalf. Yeah.
I don't think Cass is in love with Dean yet. I think he has a little crush and he wants to fuck that guy. I think that's the extent of it right
And I mean,
now.
as we've said, like, Cass doesn't really do a good job of analyzing his situation.
Oh, someone has ended theirs with, also, because I'm an Anna fan, I have to ask for the 4th time running this season, where is Anna? I hope they're doing okay after Song remains the same.
This one says, Sam is one of the main characters, but yet 27 minutes without even seeing him once. What the fuck?
Real.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Jared was bloody brilliant as Lucifer, and I give him a 10. But don't sideline him. It's insulting. And it's a 1/10.
So true, I suppose. Very fun of them.
Well, that's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week, we will be discussing Season 4, Episode 5, Fallen Idols. Leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcast.
Is that the Paris Hilton one?
I think so.
We're gonna go from this to Paris Hilton? Okay, yeah, sure. Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our tag is babpod, BABpod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at babpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, are we done with the announcement plans? Oh, the phone is fucking ringing. Like the telephone.
Okay.
Unbless the telephone. Fuck that telephone. Is my voice really okay? I feel like it isn't.
I can't
Sound-wise,
tell,
I
but
can
I'm
speak
not
still,
very
but
good at telling.
yeah,
You're the
okay,
audio
okay.
engineer here.
This is true. By audio engineer, I mean someone who has downloaded Audacity.
Yeah. Many people have not downloaded Audacity.
This is
You're
true.
probably in like the top 0.1% of people
Audacity
in audio
users.
engineering.
Honestly, probably.
Yeah.
I spend so much time in that fucking app. Yeah, 11/11 as their film correlation to Walker on season 3.
Oh, fuck yeah. It's passed for me. But
That's so sad. I just made it.
I have
just made
every
it.
other 11/11 in my life.